Call all Yahbashim Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Much salutations and love to you brothers on the highways and byways pushing the truth and sincerity. This is the brother Yawadon from GMS Denver. Today I got a article based on Esau, the so-called white man. All right, in the U.S. government, DARPA is trying to develop a new high-energy particle beam. All right, and the design of this weapon is based on Esau's fear and terror that he knows the scriptures, man. All right, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man in the U.S. government, alongside the United Nations, the European nations, the EU, they know the Most High is coming back soon. So with that, their fear is that the Most High's prophecy will become fulfilled with his return, which it will. There's absolutely nothing or no one that can stop the Most High Yahweh Shai's prophecy from being fulfilled. That's been proven in antiquity and then proven even more so in today's world. Alright, but this particle beam Esau is developing is theoretically designed to intercept and destroy intercontinental ballistic missiles on the boost phase. So that's just before they hit the stratosphere and break free from their launching mechanism and begin orbit into dropping the payload on the desired target. Okay, but this high particle beam, alright, Esau's trying to develop and put this shit in space, alright, in the stratosphere, and use it to shoot down any nations opposing intercontinental ballistic missiles, or that of the missiles that are shot and redirected all towards America, which is prophecy in the scriptures. Okay, it's prophesied that the silos, the archer, will bend his bow and shoot their arrows, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, and as a result, those missiles will be re-guided and directed by the chariots, so-called UFOs, of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, all directed towards the United States and the European nations, as well as Russia and China. Alright, these other heathen nations that are in power under the so-called white man, otherwise known in the Bible as Esau, Edom. So quickly, we'll grab the article, blast through a few scriptures on why this is prophecy, on why this is identification on who the man of sin is, why this is prophecy for the times that we are in today, the end times, the end of the end, the last days of the last days, so to speak. Possible misinformation. Analyst calls U.S. bluff on imminent test of death ray with tiny budget. The Pentagon wants a $300 million experiment with a space-based direct energy weapon for intercepting ballistic missiles, but the request may be deliberate misinformation in the spirit of the Reagan-era Star Wars program. The U.S. military has vowed to boost its space infrastructure, keeping ahead of Russia and China as they may develop anti-satellite capabilities. Most of Washington's efforts is to provide more redundancy and to ensure that if either of the two adversary nations were to start shooting down American satellites, enough would remain in orbit so that American troops, blah, blah. We're going to jump to the next section. That's not relevant. The 2020 budget proposal asks for a $304 million space-based anti-missile weaponry, including powerful lasers and neutral particle beams. Defense One reported most of the money is to be poured into the latter project, which is supposed to result in an experiment sometime before 2023. You know, you hear these reports of these things that Esau is doing and trying to develop to prevent the end prophecy from occurring. But all that's doing is making it more evident on who the man of sin is, and even more so evident that the Most High is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, as the elders of Great Millstone and brothers push and exalt. Alright, it just gives more validity to the truth in general. There's nothing that Esau can do to escape his judgment. The so-called white man, by nationality, by bloodline, if you are a so-called Edomite, white man, also known as Edomite by blood, your destiny and your future is chattel slavery, and to witness and watch the destruction and downfall of your beloved country, as well as your beloved democratic partners that you have exalted with you in your delusions of grandeur, okay? There was one thing I wanted to touch on here. Defense 1. So key point there. I'm going to highlight it on the screen. Defense 1. What are you defending, Esau? Why if the so-called Jews in Israel right now are the chosen people of God, what are you defending from? The Bible prophecy says that once the authentic Jews have been saved, they will be returned to their homeland. All right, and there will be no more war, no more bloodshed of any kind, or no nation warring against any nation of any kind for eternity. All right, so what is your defense 1 for? Why are you setting up defense systems, Esau, Edom, so-called white man, if you have the chosen people of God in Israel now? Question mark. And that is a question, a direct question. So that's bunking already modern day depictions of Christianity, so-called, okay, or denominational churches breakdown of what the Messiah is, who he is, what he looked like, what he stood for, as well as the apostles and the prophets before, the things they said, the prophecies they prophesied, as well as their characteristics and how they acted, how they held themselves. They're completely rivaled towards modern day Christianity and denominational churches' depiction of the scriptures. Okay. With that, we're going to jump into the scripture. I'm going to get 2 Thessalonians first, because it's important to understand why we call the so-called white man Esau, Edom. All right? It's important to understand where these prophecies come from and how to understand these prophecies in the event that someone asks you, or in yourself, you find yourself curious. So how does GMS, how do the elders of Great Millstone break this down the way they do? First of all, if the Most High allows you to receive it in proper form and fashion, then this is it. All right. Like I said, double honors to my elders for teaching me this information. All right. Let no man deceive you. 2 Thessalonians. I'm gonna start at verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. That falling away is Israel, not knowing who we are. All right, by blood, Israelites not knowing who we are, our forefathers, our heritage, our history, and our nationality, which brings a covenant into play. That we are liable to follow the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai as Israelites to the best of our ability. All right, we are still in captivity, but that falling away is Israel today. We don't know who we are as Israelites. You know, before the truth, I proclaim myself as a biracial individual mixed with so-called African American and so-called Caucasian. In the truth, I've reclassified my ethnic origin to Hebrew Israelite. All right, a heir to the throne of Yahushai. Lord willing, you know what I mean? That's what we run for. That's what the elders run for. That's what we stand for, is to be chosen in that elect number. Once destruction and the downfall of America commences, there'll be 144,000 chosen to be saved from that destruction, either through life or through a new body. Okay? But moving on, let no man deceive you, but that man of sin be revealed. That man of sin is the destroyer. The man of sin, the one that, the origin of sin, the one that Satan, or Shaitan, the spiritual entity Satan, is dealing with on the left side of the throne to promote and deplore wickedness around the earth. Okay, that man of sin, that's all he is known for, is sin. That man of sin is not capable of conjuring righteous thought. He is incapable of keeping the law, statutes, and commandments to any degree. All right, and he's committed and convinced in his own mind that he has done nothing wrong, that he'll never do anything wrong, and that there's nothing erroneous in his actions or ways. This is the man of sin. This is a huge identifier on who that man of sin, or which nation of people on earth today, I should say, rather. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God. Now, why do we say that the so-called white man opposes himself and exalts himself above who the world calls God? For reasons like this. You know, we're witnessing Esau Edom develop technology that, in a way, would combat against the powers of who the world would come to know or understand as God, an all-powerful being, an entity. As an all-powerful entity, if you were God, not that anyone could perceive that, but if you were a death ray, so to speak, in quotation, or a particle beam would be something that would be emitted as a weapon that could potentially, or in the minds of a flesh, in our minds, as a so-called U.S. citizen would be combative towards a higher power. You know, what the fuck do we need a death ray for in America? You know what I mean? I mean, really, you put any type of common sense to this application, and there's no other way around it. All right, he opposeth and exalteth himself as the Most High, and creating death rays and funding top secret defense projects in the hundreds of millions of dollars for no reason doesn't make sense. So there's a reason why the United States government and the EU is developing technologies like this, not only to protect itself from its counterparts in the heathen nations, being the Russians and the Chinese, but also because the higher elites in Israel and the 1%, the Rockefellers, DuPonts, etc., they know the prophecies are being done away with. I mean, not done away with, Salak, but they're being done. They're coming to pass. Okay, and with that, there's great fear in the nation of Esau Edom and the elite higher class in general, because they know that their time is short and that their time is coming to a quick end. Okay, and as a result, they're flushing and funding all they can and all the money they can in these Russian and United States and European nation governments and Chinese governments to develop some type of anti-God weaponry to defend themselves from the chariots, also known as so-called UFOs, when the end comes. You know, we're going to see UFOs in the sky, and they're going to be filled with angels. And these are going to be the instruments of destruction that assist in the downfall and the destruction of the nations that we see today before us. So it only makes clear and perfect sense that this death ray is actually a top secret weapon the elites are attempting to develop, or they may have already developed. I don't know. They probably have. But more of a testimony and faith builder towards who the true power and who truly to be fearful of, which is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Because even in the midst of something like a death ray, the Most High is still going to squash these Edomites and these other nations like bugs. The bugs that they are. Okay? So that's identifying. I mean, that pretty much covers that. I mean, you're going to find precepts in Obadiah. All right, you're going to get the prophecy of the prophet Obadiah, which is one chapter. All right, and that's going to tell you why the Lord is going to destroy the so-called white man, also known as Esau Edom in the scriptures. That spiritual entity Cain, you know, the man of sin, I should say, the one that knows not the righteous ways of the Most High, does not know how to be godly, and has been found out, quite frankly, in these times to be that man of sin. All right, so I hope this was somewhat edifying. Appreciate you bearing with me. For now, I say Yahabatha and Yahweh Mahar. Shalom.